from the perspective of your friends, which are patients or people with migraine.
Or patients with migraine.
Well, people
Either
with
way.
migraine. I'll bet it's better.
Either one, I'm good with. But
All right. What advice do you have for them?
So my advice, I think, for people who have migraine is if you've given up hope, now is the time to have hope again. That you have a good chance of responding in some way positively to these medications. But even if you don't, there is so much more in the pipeline that's coming up quickly. So now is not a time to give up. It's really easy to lose hope and to be discouraged. And when that happens, then you become less informed. And every aspect of your life starts to go downhill. The other thing I want to say is that a lot of people who are looking at these new medications are afraid. They're seeing some of the side effects, quote, side effects, because we don't know which are actually causative yet, on some of the online groups, and so they're saying, I'm not sure if I want to try this medication. But the reality is that this medication potentially could transform their lives.
And have you seen their lives transformed?
I have, yes. Actually, I have a very close friend who lives locally, who was in the trials, did very well, and then a few years later, when it was finally approved, was able to get back on the medications, doing phenomenally. I see a lot of people, a lot of personal friends who are just, literally, it has been life-transforming. There are others, unfortunately, like myself, who have not had that response, but I get hope from seeing the people who have responded.
All right. This has just been a great discussion. Really informative. I want to thank everybody, by the way, on the panel for joining us here. But before we go, what I want to do is give each of you the floor, uninterrupted, for a few moments, and share something with our audience that you think is really important. Why don't we start with you, Dr. Burton?
Well, from an employer standpoint, I think early on we said there are no question there's 40 million Americans plus with migraine headache, and a large percent are not diagnosed, and those that are diagnosed are unfortunately frequently undertreated and not controlled. So there's lots of opportunities here.
Dr. Lopes?
Big gap in the education, both at the patient level perhaps, as well as the prescriber level, and that prescriber may be a PCP, a general practitioner, an OBGYN. So a lot of, I think, learning opportunities that help us all, I think, in the end, understand the burden of disease, but also what should be an evidence-based approach. And I'll also argue for better real-world data that helps us understand the gaps and hopefully, again, where these exciting therapies, where they may even help more individuals.
Dr. Silverstein?
I tend to see the patients who are the worst of the worst, who have often have seen 5 or 10 other physicians. And the one thing I try to do is give them hope. And we have an aggressive inpatient unit in addition to everything else. And I tell them that of the worst of the worst patients, we can manage to turn 80% of them around. And if they come away with, and they say, for the first time, somebody has given me something new, so will I have hope again?
All right. You've got the last word.
I have the last word. I love that. So I think most important is, it's really crucial people understand how disabling this disease is, the complete impact that it has on someone's life. This is not, as you said, just an embarrassing rash. Not that a rash should be minimized, but this is disabling in so many ways. And the patients need and want to be a part of the conversation. I think the time for the parental model of healthcare, and insurance is included in that, is past, and that it more needs to be a partnership. And I think from reading the AHS guidelines recently, they talk about that, how some things need to be patient-driven, and that is really crucial.
Well, I want to thank all of you for being here. You know what I've heard? Something that I thought about this past week, because I was reading a story of the Shackleton expedition to the South Pole. What held everybody together was hope. And that's what I heard from you, hope. There's something out there. Seeing 5 doctors didn't work. Now, 70, 80% can get better. Hope's important. On behalf of our panel, and on behalf of Hope, I want to thank you out there for joining us. I hope you found this peer exchange discussion to be useful and informative. I'm Dr. Peter Salgo, and I'll see you next time.